Welcome back and settle in. Imagine yourself arriving in a city that hums like a distant seashell, a megalopolis of the near future where everything wants to help you rest, where even the elevators keep a gentle pace and the lights seem to breathe. If this slow drift feels comforting, a soft reminder to like this video and subscribe helps others find a quiet place too. And there is a playlist link in the description. You can start now so the learning continues while you drift. What city/country are you watching from right now? You find yourself on a calm evening walkway between tall buildings that do not glare but glow. The towers rise like quiet cliffs of glass and stone, softened by patterns of living greenery and muted reflections of the dusky sky. Air moves with a subtle, steady push through the spaces between towers, guided by careful design so the breeze never rushes or whips. Surfaces have textures that do not echo, so that each footstep becomes a mellow tap that fades almost at once. The city has learned to whisper. You breathe out, and the street breathes with you. Along the edges of the walkway, small leaves open and close to follow the faintest changes in light, powered by trickles of energy gathered all day. There is no sudden brightness here, only calm gradations that let your eyes rest. The lamps are tuned to a warm spectrum that keeps the circadian clocks of plants, people, and animals in an easy alignment. Very little energy is needed to maintain this calm, because the spaces are shaped to catch and hold the conditions that comfort you. The buildings share warmth and cool through hidden channels, like a quiet river of temperature that flows and pools where it is needed. You can almost hear that river if you imagine a low, kind murmur under the pavement. Inside the structures, the walls act like reservoirs. Thick layers of material absorb heat when the day is generous and return it when the night grows gentle. In afternoon hours, the city drinks the sun, and in the blue silence after dusk, it slowly pours that stored warmth back into its rooms and corridors. When the air needs calming, cool water loops through the floors, not in a rush, but at a measured rate that lets the surfaces remain comforting to the touch. You imagine your palm gliding along a handrail, the metal neither cold nor warm, simply neutral like a river stone. The gentle rhythm continues. These towers are poetry in physics. They rest on foundations designed to channel loads into the earth, as if placing a quiet hand on a shoulder. Their faces are quilts of materials chosen not for show, but for the way they let light through without letting energy escape. The windows are layered like the rings of a tree, each ring playing a modest part. The outer glass reflects the parts of sunlight that would be too harsh, while the inner panes allow a soft glow to settle inside. In the thin spaces between those panes, invisible gases slow the tiny dances of heat, so the interior gently keeps its calm. At night, shades nestled within the frames come down with patient certainty, sealing in tranquility, and the city grows a little cozier. You step through an entry that welcomes without fanfare. The doors part quietly, and then are clear, meet again with a soft seal. The lobby is not a cathedral of echoes, but a living room for many. The floor has a forgiving give beneath your steps. On it, patterns ripple like pond water in slow motion. The sound of air is a hush, moving past the corners in a way that avoids murmur or whistle. Even the screens that give information use a rare, gentle brightness, adjusted to the time of day by sensors that imitate the attentive eyes of a patient caretaker. You sense that nothing here is trying too hard, and because of that, everything works well. At the heart of this place are the elevators that move like thoughtful companions. In this city, they do not rush. They ease into motion and come to rest in a way your body understands as kind. Engineers would call it a careful profile of acceleration and jerk, where the change in speed and the change in the change are smooth to be barely noticeable. Your knees do not brace. Your stomach does not sway. A tiny difference in numbers becomes a large difference in how your body relaxes. It may take a few breaths longer to reach a floor, but time feels different here, stretched thin like silk, so light that it barely rests on you at all. You stand near the elevator bank, and the panels show a small, simple set of symbols. Instead of a single up or down arrow, the display invites you to choose your destination. This is the quiet version of Destination Dispatch, a system that gently gathers travelers who are going to nearby floors and lets them ride together. The result is fewer stops, less starting and stopping, more continuous gliding. The elevator cars sleep between journeys in a low-power state, their lights dimmed, their control systems in attentive idling, ready to wake like a cat, opening one eye. When they move, the motors recover energy on the way down through regenerative braking, a soft return of power to the building's central store. So every descent is also a small gift to the system. This too is part of the city's whisper. The walls around you dampen sound so effectively that even with many people present, it never feels crowded. A microphone does not listen for your words, but for the general character of the lobby's murmur, and helps the room hold to a calm level. If a cluster of voices grows a little animated, the room quietly encourages the air to absorb the energy of sound and let it slip away. The lights seem to thrum in harmony with your breathing. Fresh air arrives slowly along the floor, cool, not cold, carrying the faint green scent of planters just outside the doors. As the elevator arrives, its doors do not hurry. They open at a pace that is unremarkable until you notice the lack of sharpness in the movement. The edges do not flash past. They glide. The lighting inside the car is warm. Seats along the sides give an option to rest for the short journey. The surfaces are thoughtful, soft to the fingertips, easy to clean, and hard to scratch. A quiet screen shows the next few stops in letters that emit a calm light. You step in, and the car waits a breath longer than you expect, not from neglect, but from kindness. That extra moment gives a person across the lobby time to enter without haste, and it gives your shoulders time to sink a little lower. When the doors move again, their path is steady, gentle, sure. The car begins to rise. The sensation is a polite suggestion rather than a command. You look at the panels, and the numbers change at a soothing tempo. The motor's hum has a rounded tone, almost like a low, distant cello. You can imagine how the engineers tuned it, removing the narrow peaks that can make a sound prickle, shaping it into something the human ear can let pass without tension. In the ceiling, ventilation flows around without blowing on you. Air enters in a sheet along one edge and leaves along another, creating a slow river that keeps everything fresh but still. The carpet under your feet is woven from recycled fibers, engineered to minimize sound, to cushion steps, to cradle. At the next stop, the doors part and close again, and the car resumes. The rhythm is consistent, not a clock's tick, but an unspooling ribbon. The entire ride embraces a philosophy that the city holds dear. Time gains value when it is not carved into sharp pieces. Movement gains grace when it is slow enough for your senses to follow without jolts. Energy gains purpose when it stays where it can do the most good, when the system keeps it from spilling out as heat or harshness. In this building, saving energy is not a sacrifice, but a way to find comfort. It is the pleasant logic of matching pace to need. When you step out onto your floor, the hallway greets you with gentle temperature and very soft edges of light. There is a memory in the walls of the warmth that daytime brought. You notice that corners are rounded, not for show, but because air prefers to slip past a smooth bend. Even the paint has a matte finish that steals glare and gives back depth. The corridor listens for empty stretches and dims deliberately until senses feel the trace of your movement. Then it wakes just a little more, a lazy sunrise for your steps. The building is full of these small, almost invisible negotiations between presence and pause, between movement and stillness. The gentle rhythm continues. You stop at a window and look down at the city. It is a garden of constellations. Each building hints at where people are, with a soft scattering of points that brighten only as much as needed. You scan the rooftops and see small cups of greenery, the leaves moving slightly in slender breezes guided by the shapes of structures. Those plants cool the air around them by letting water slip into vapor and then float away, a tiny evaporative sigh. Beneath them, beds of soil store rainwater with patience. During the day, this stored water flows to where it is needed, and at night, the system rests. The roof membranes gleam a pale color, reflecting the harshest midday light so that the city absorbs less heat from the sun. Imagination gives you the sense that the city wears a light summer coat instead of a heavy one. Along the edges of rooftops, small wind harvesters turn with no sudden changes in speed. These are not the tall, churning turbines of open fields, but soft, slow devices shaped like shells or twisting ribbons. They make use of the steady flows that buildings create, and they feed tiny streams of power back into the building's balances. every trickle matters, when everything is designed to accept a trickle. A small panel here powers the lighting in a stairwell. A tiny turbine there keeps a pump ready to stir water through the radiant floor at dawn. The city feels like a series of reservoirs and bridges connecting one quiet stream to another. In the walls and floors, thermal mass does what it has always done in stone churches and caves, but it has been invited to work with materials that are gentle to produce and fit into the cycles of nature. Some floors hold phase-changing materials tucked away, waxes within tiny shells that shift from solid to soft at exactly the temperature your body loves, absorbing heat without a rush. Later, they give it back. Most days it means the cooling system does not need to wake all at once. It can yawn, stretch, and smile because the materials have taken care of much of the load. Sensors watch, and instead of hunting and chasing temperature, they guide it as if holding a conversation. The feedback loops are patient. Beyond the window, you sense the city's deeper rhythms. The transit lines move like veins, steady and smooth, with trains that approach and leave without shrieks. The tracks are isolated from the ground in frames of material that eat vibration the way a forest consumes echoes. Platforms feel more like living rooms than machinery bays. Microgrids connect neighborhoods in quiet cooperation, each set of blocks sharing energy that winds its way around like a school of fish. When one place has more than it needs, an algorithm that never raises its voice guides the flow. You are part of a network that is less like a machine and more like a meadow. On another floor, there is a lounge where people bring their laptops and books to rest. The chairs are arranged in small groupings with sight lines that do not demand attention from those across the room. If you look up, you do not see the guts of the building, but a serene canopy that hides ducts in rounded channels, that lets acoustic clouds hang like slow drifting pillows. Natural fibers blend with recycled plastics to make strong, light panels that can be moved without fuss if the room needs to change. In the corner is a small bar of hot water and tea leaves, and the sound of cups is soft on the ears. This is the future's answer to rush, to noise. It does not resist them with bigger voices, but by gently giving them no room to start. The elevator nearby takes people down to a courtyard garden that sits at the base of the tower like a green tray. You walk there in your mind, moving with the measured pace the elevators teach. The garden's paths bend in ways that feel inevitable. You find a bench that looks into a pool of water, set not for show, but for climate. The surface reflects warm stripes of light slanting from the windows above. At the edges, plants with broad leaves pull moisture from the soil and let it pass into the air, a slow breath that cools the air as it rises. Above, narrow canopies cast dappled shade, just enough to keep the surface from warming too quickly. A small whisper of air across the water enhances the cooling effect without drawing your attention, and the evening is kind to the skin. On the far side of the garden, discrete panels display the building's energy use in pictures. There are no flashing numbers, no alerts with red exclamation marks. Instead, shapes change slowly, like clouds shifting. You can see how the evening carries less demand than the day, and how the elevators, moving at their unhurried pace, claim only a small, steady stream of power. Underneath the picture, there is a timeline of the last week, gently reminding you of how patterns repeat. You notice dips when the morning breeze helps, small rises when clouds cruise by. The building never shouts, and so its information does not demand, it invites. The gentle rhythm continues. When you rise again in the elevator, you feel a small shift as the car glides through a region where the shaft widens. The building has been designed so that the air above and below the car can flow without causing blasts of pressure. The doors seal small leaks with lips of rubber that last longer because they are treated kindly by the system's timing. The car's speed is lower than in the more hurried cities of the past, and that means less drag, fewer losses, less heat for the ventilation to carry away. In a sense, the elevators teach energy thrift by making it pleasant. When you do not feel rushed, you do not demand the speed that causes waste. The control software that runs the lifts has a simple purpose. It wants to keep you unaware of complexity. It predicts when the morning will be busy by watching not people, but patterns. Each weekday has its own mild signature, like the way someone you love walks across a room. The system gently encourages the habit of pressing your destination at a kiosk a few steps before the elevator, and in return, it groups you with others going the same way. The doors open to greet a handful of people who all settle quickly because there is an ease in the collective motion. It is not forced, merely encouraged by a rhythm that the building sets. Elsewhere in the city, whole districts have learned this slow ease. Streets that once surged now pulse calmly. Vehicles glide on routes that the city adjusts ever so slightly based on temperature, light, and the patterns of people. Nighttime deliveries use shared schedules negotiated by algorithms that never feel harried. Goods travel when buildings are ready to receive them, when elevators have the spare time and power, when corridors are less busy, when the background hum of the city is low. This spreading of activity keeps peaks gentle, and gentle peaks keep systems small and resilient. The people inside these flows feel less pressure. A long inhale, a long exhale, nothing sharp. You imagine a morning in this city. You wake to a light that has been tuned to be similar to dawn, even if the sky is overcast. The building's sensors have learned your routine, not your secrets, only the general shapes of your habits, and they begin to warm the room a bit earlier on workdays, a bit later on weekends. Hot water waits in the pipes near your shower, circulating slowly in a loop that loses very little heat because it is wrapped in good insulation, and because it only circulates when a gentle schedule says the time is near. You step into the hallway, and it lights like a crescent sunrise that reaches just ahead of your pace. In the elevator, the car welcomes you with a quiet morning song of mechanical tones so gentle they are hardly heard. It takes you to a lobby where the scent of baked bread passes through a small cafe. The The delivery that brought flour came at midnight on a shared route that combined supplies for several shops in one journey, avoiding waste. The ovens are efficient, not only because of engineering taken seriously, but because the heat they produce is captured and sent to warm air in the lobby, the remainder stored in a water tank that sits like a warm heart behind a wall, ready to give a little boost to the showers for those who will wake later. Nothing is frantic, and because nothing is frantic, everything fits together. In offices above the street, the day's work begins without a jolt. Desks sit near windows because the glass allows soft, useful light deep into the rooms. A white ceiling bounces this light without glare, turning day into an ambient presence. When clouds pass, sensors let lights fill the gaps in small, careful increments. Eyes are never surprised. Laptops sip energy, guided by power policies that prioritize patience over constant instant readiness. Servers in the basement spend many hours in low energy states because demand is smoothed. The cooling system knows when to chill a little water at night, when the air is cooler and power is abundant, so that during the day, the hum of compressors is quiet. You can imagine the sound never rising above the level of a thoughtful conversation. The gentle rhythm continues. As the sun warms the city, facades act like instruments tuned to each orientation. On the southern faces, small louvers shift so slowly you would not notice unless you watched for minutes at a time. They temper the sun, and in doing so, they protect the interior from overheating, reducing the need for mechanical cooling. On the eastern faces, transparent insulators allow winter light deep into the building when the angle is low, while in summer, their subtle coatings reflect just enough. The city's computer models became more like weather law than commands. They learned from years of quiet observation, and now they offer suggestions that feel obvious when you see them. The buildings accept or decline these suggestions based on the comfort of their interiors, and the choice is made gradually, with no need for abrupt shifts. Under the streets, a network of pipes shares coolness and warmth like a cooperative. A data center gives its waste heat to a bathhouse. A supermarket's refrigeration plant keeps a nearby school comfortable in the early morning. A cluster of apartments receives gentle cooling from a library that chilled water overnight in its basement cistern using a cool wind. None of it is dramatic, because to the users, it is not visible. For them, it is simply comfortable. In the wider city, this sharing reduces the total size of machines needed. It means generators can sit silent more often. It means a storm causing a brief power discomfort is softened because there is less to knock over. Fewer systems at a hard edge. This is what resilience feels like when it is designed for rest as well as survival. In the afternoon, as you ride the elevator again, you notice the side panels are made of layers of wood, grown slowly in forests cared for with attention. The wood has been compressed to be strong, but still warm to the eye. In its grain, you can imagine river lines and annual rings that keep time. The car's corners are protected by curved profiles that keep the surfaces from chipping. You run a finger along the edge, and feel a continuity that is not interrupted by seams. The act of touching anchors you to the present, and the present is deep and quiet. Some elevators in this city are innovative in ways that remain modest. Ropeless cars move using linear motors that cling to rails, allowing more flexible paths through shafts that split and merge. Others are paired cars that share a counterweight so that one rising helps another descend. The controller chooses paths and motions that bias toward shared movement, toward the cooperative dance that reduces energy. The mathematics behind this is elegant, but it hides behind a surface of graceful acts. You simply see two cars crossing past each other with a nod, like neighbors passing on a narrow staircase, each giving half an inch, each taking half an inch. No friction, no fuss. When evening returns, the city begins to dim in ways that feel like a sunset. The intensity of light falls first in places where tasks are finishing, then in corridors where movement is rare. The absence of sharp corners on brightness and darkness helps your eyes feel soothed. Darkness in this city is not the absence of light, but a cradle shaped by it. Flora and fauna in parks can rest because the sky is not filled with needless glare. The stars, faint though they may be, in a city still full of life, return as points of quiet detail that invite slow looking. The rooftop gardens continue their work of cooling by letting water breathe skyward, and at the same time, they offer places for people to lean into the night. The elevators find their night rhythm too. Their schedules ease. Cars sleep between floors, not just at the lobbies. Sensors watch for people stepping toward banks with purposeful strides, then wake the nearest car without panic. Maintenance runs happen at a pace that lets parts live longer. Bearings are lubricated in microdoses that halve the friction where it matters. Wires and rails are inspected by small robots that move as gently as the elevators themselves. Their sensors listening for the earliest whispers of wear. Because everything is soft, everything lasts longer. Because everything lasts longer, less needs to be made. Because less needs to be made, the city uses less energy and fewer materials. The loop closes, quiet and calm. Beyond the building, public spaces echo this unhurried logic. Parks are designed with climates that help nearby buildings and sidewalks year-round. In summer, water features cool the air and feed shade trees with perfect timing. In winter, trellises along southern walls absorb the sun and share warmth with benches where people might stop for a moment. Pathways guide winds to move where they will be helpful and to avoid the places where they might pick up speed. This careful attention to the shape of air reduces the need for machines to fix things later. It is a little like writing a sentence slowly so that it does not need to be corrected. The gentle rhythm continues. At the scale of the entire megalopolis, energy is treated as a guest, invited to stay as long as it is useful, and then guided along to where it will find a new task. The day's sunlight fills batteries in roads and building walls, not in a rush, but evenly. Small flywheels hold short bursts for the elevators to sip. Thermal stores in basements act like blankets, keeping the night warm enough and the day cool enough with minimal help. There are times when the wind and sun offer more than needed. Instead of letting this spill, the city uses it to make ice for tomorrow's cooling, to pump water to rooftops for gravity-fed distributions, to charge buses that glide quietly along. There is an underlying sense of sufficiency. You return to the elevator once more, as if your day follows a loop that is the same and yet always slightly different. Standing in the car, you feel as if the city is breathing. Each floor is a pause in the inhale. Each movement is an exhale. You remember the old feeling of elevators snapping to a halt and surging into motion, and you notice how this new rhythm lets your muscles unclench without you asking them to. You look at the car's ceiling, where a subtle pattern suggests deep space in miniature, a scattered constellation of pinpricks that are not lights, but textures that catch the light. When the car slides to a stop, you hardly notice until the doors have already begun to ease open. Somewhere around the middle of this gentle drift, the narrator's voice would softly touch your shoulder and invite you back to the present. How sleepy are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Then the voice would recede again, letting your attention float. You imagine stepping out into a shared workspace that hosts a quiet workshop on maintaining houseplants that clean air. The session is framed by science, but delivered like a lullaby. The plants breathe in their way, taking in carbon dioxide, releasing oxygen, catching dust in tiny hairs that later let it fall down harmlessly to the soil. Their leaves glisten because the humidity in this building is gently managed, not with sudden sprays, but with evaporation that rises from hidden reservoirs. A child in the corner stares at a leaf and seems absorbed by the veins that look like a city map. There is a harmony between living things and their human companions that feels deep and unremarkable, like tea slowly cooling in a cup. A floor above, there is a small gym with slow machines. The treadmills can go fast, but few choose to. The windows look onto a park, and the light suggests patience. There is a quiet emphasis on movement that supports the body without punishing it. A trainer speaks in a low voice about the way metabolic systems benefit from steady rhythms. He references research on heart rate variability, on aerobic efficiency, on how the nervous system calms when exercise is not a fight, but a dance. In another corner, a yoga class bends in waves, timing breaths with the building's ventilation, syncing inhale and exhale with slight changes in airflow. The building and the bodies are partners. The gentle rhythm continues. In the depths of the structure, the systems that manage water move at deliberate speeds. Rain falls on the roof gardens and feeds into cisterns that let dust settle. Filters are plants, root systems spread through gravel beds that are as beautiful as they are practical. The water that emerges is clear and patient. It is used to flush toilets, feed cooling, irrigate small food plots. A sensor notifies the maintenance team when layers need care, but the notification is a soft note, not a blare. People respond when they are ready, and because the system is built for margins, there is no crisis. You realize that this sense of not being trapped by time is at the heart of the city's energy calm. When the system never wanders near its edge, it is always between deep breaths. You pass by a stairwell and notice that it is inviting instead of hidden. The steps have shallow rises, designed to be climbed easily. Light washes down the wall at an angle that robs shadows of their harshness. The air is fresh because each stairwell has helped the building breathe, acting as a vertical lung that moves air from one layer to another at times of day when it makes sense. This helps the elevator by taking some load away when people choose to climb. Every choice blends into the whole. Nothing is a small thing, because every small thing touches many others. In apartments that hang like lanterns around the tower's sides, families are making dinner. The induction stoves heat pans without heating the air around them much, which keeps the rooms cooler in summer and warmer in winter. Above the stoves, hoods capture vapors efficiently and send them into a mild stream where filters catch particulate gently. The heat from cooking does not disappear. It helps heat water in the tank under the counter. The refrigerator does not run constantly because the kitchen's climate is steady. The fridge's compressor wakes quietly when it should, then rests for long stretches. It hums like a house cat purring. Children brush their teeth with water that appears at just the right temperature. The tap mixes hot and cold thoughtfully, and the pipes retain warmth in their coverings. The shower's droplets are small enough to feel like a fine rain rather than a downdraft. The water seems to hang on your skin with kindness. When you step out, the mirror is free of fog because air moves across it slowly. Warmth is recovered from the outgoing air and given back to the incoming. You stand and breathe, and in your breath, the whole city seems to shimmer in quiet, patient coherence. The gentle rhythm continues. Consider the people who design and maintain all these systems. They work in rooms where the lights never flicker. They sit in chairs that support more than they can strain. Their screens show landscapes of data, but those landscapes are not jagged. They are smooth, rolling fields. The software interfaces try not to grab attention because grabbing attention is energy. Instead, the interfaces guide, offering suggestions, checking in when it matters, but letting minds wander when they can. The culture values a long view. The teams know that preventative care is kindness, and kindness extends life. They use sensors that last, and they place them where cleaning is easy, not where it would be hard to reach. Because everything can be reached without stress, everything gets care. Now and then, the city makes a gentle change at a wide scale. The transit agency might slow the timetable by a small percentage to save power when the grid is resting. The buildings respond by staggering the start of air handlers by a minute here, a minute there. The elevators adjust rest times. The city feels this like a body feels a nap. It is not a shutdown, only a collective exhale. When the pause passes, a new balance is found. No one feels jarred because each part of the system heard the same quiet request and answered with a small nod rather than a flinch. The visual language of the city supports this. There are no advertising screens shouting into your eyes. Instead, information is low-key, like in the old days of public libraries, present but not insistent. When there is art, it often moves slowly. A mural might be made with ink that blooms with moisture in the air, becoming deeper after rain and paler after a spell of dry weather. A sculpture might align with the sun at a certain hour and cast a ribbon of light across a plaza. You imagine sitting on a bench and watching that ribbon slide along the ground during the course of an hour. The passage of time turned into a comfort rather than a command. In the residential towers, the elevator's key role becomes more than transport. They are social spaces that exist for seconds but connect people. Because they are unhurried, small conversations begin. People do not feel that speaking takes something away from others. The building selects background sounds that encourage calm, so a soft tone hums under everything, more like a presence than a melody. Posters on the elevator walls share small facts about energy and comfort, but they do so in whispers. You might learn that reducing the maximum speed of the lift by 1/5 can cut energy use significantly, especially when combined with smooth acceleration, and that any small increase in journey time is often offset by better grouping of stops. The numbers are not presented as a test, but as a lullaby for the rational mind, inviting it to doze on a bed of sense. On a rainy night, the city shows how it holds kindness even under heavy clouds. Water does not splash from gutters. It gathers in places meant to welcome it. Drainage is slow, wide, and gentle, guided into cisterns with natural sediments that keep it clear and safe for its next use. Streets have low edges where water can rise without causing trouble. People walk along paths that offer a dry passage without needing a dash. The rainwater feeds another day of cooling across the city's hidden radiators. Its presence is a gift that will be felt later in the softness of the air on a warm afternoon. The megalopolis remembers and plans and does so in a way that never strains. The elevators keep this rhythm. They are never violent. The cables, or the linear motors in ropeless systems, work within wide safety margins, not because the city fears failure, but because it loves the feeling of never approaching the limits. When a car stops, it arrives with posture. When it starts, it departs with courtesy. Equipment that needs rest takes it at night. Diagnostics run in the background and offer reminders like a subtle calendar reminder. The city reads those reminders and answers them without drama. In this way, problems rarely become loud. The systems live like good neighbors. There is a deeper science in all of this. The city plays with entropy, but never fights it with clenched teeth. It knows that energy loves to spread, so it accepts that truth and shapes spaces so that the spreading happens where it helps. Heat flows to places where mass waits to hold it. Cool flows to surfaces that prefer a lower temperature. Sound fades because the materials around it are tuned to round off its corners. Light spreads into shades that human eyes find easy to swim within. The physics is practical and poetic. It is the same physics you notice when you pick up a mug that has been warmed by tea and feel the heat move into your hand in a way that relaxes you. You imagine an afternoon spent simply riding up and down in the building, watching the way the city shifts at each floor. On a mid-level, a school lets out with a small wave of bodies moving into a corridor where the lighting brightens to greet them, then dims when they leave. Above, a clinic runs quietly, its equipment humming without urgency because the climate is so well managed that machines need not overexert. On the highest levels, apartments open to terraces where herbs grow in planters that share water through wicks, each taking what it needs and leaving what it does not. The elevators have routes that know when school ends, when the clinic wraps up appointments, when dinner service peaks. They prepare without fanfare. It is easy to forget that all of this rests on choices about materials and processes. Concrete is mixed with less cement thanks to improved chemistry that gains strength with less carbon released. Timber from managed forests replaces steel where it makes sense, locking away carbon like a calm promise. Metals are used in cycles that return them after decades, cleaned and reformed with minimal energy because the city designed for disassembly. In the elevators, this shows up as modular panels that click out when their time is done and click in when new ones arrive. Motors are built to be repaired in parts rather than replaced as a whole. Rails are chosen for recyclability and are installed in ways that allow multiple lives. Nothing is disposable in the short term. Everything has a long, comfortable story. You might wonder how the city arrived here, but the story is simple. It started with attention to comfort as much as cost. It asked how it would feel to live in a slower, kinder place, and then it tried small changes that saved energy by making life better. People accepted the changes because their bodies approved, and then the math approved too. The city took that approval and built it into infrastructure. It is neither glamorous nor austere. It is a calm approach. The gentle rhythm continues. Even the small rituals of maintenance are wrapped in care. Lift technicians arrive with soft shoes and move like librarians. They carry tools that hum rather than buzz. They lubricate tracks with oils derived from plants, formulated to last longer and evaporate less. They pull data logs from the systems and review them in a room that smells faintly of wood and tea. They do not rush, and because they do not rush, they do not miss. A checklist slides on a tablet that never bleaches the eye with ice blue. It uses a warm palette that is easy to read. When they close a panel, the click is satisfying. They leave the space as quiet as they found it. When you walk outside again and feel the night air on your face, you can sense how the city supports sleep. The sidewalks have a gentle slope, so rainwater moves, but they feel level under the foot. The benches are angled just so, inviting but not insistent. Small insects move in the cover of plantings. Birds settle in trees that take care of themselves with captured rain. The distant trains continue to glide. You notice your own breathing, matching the pace of a distant elevator you cannot see but can imagine moving in slow rising and falling ribbons inside its shaft. In your mind, each ride is a lullaby that never ends, because waiting is not an interruption here. It is part of the music. In a quiet apartment, a person dimly hears an elevator bell that has been tuned to a soft, pleasant note. The bell speaks in a voice that does not cut and then falls silent. The person turns a page of a book and lets the sentence they just read settle. A kettle puffs a single sigh. The couch remembers the shape of a long nap. Somewhere, a thermostat shifts by a fraction of a degree because a cloud has moved away from the moon. The person is not aware of these shifts, but their body is. The body relaxes because the environment is reliable, rich with small comforts, free of surprises. The city's energy dashboards show that as night deepens, the power flows slow to a minimum. Batteries in car parks fill in a way that helps the grid rather than hinders it, guided by price signals that are themselves smoothed and gentle. Streetlights reach their lowest settings where no movement is detected for long spans. Elevators rest in clusters so that the small leakage of power in sleeping systems is minimized. Stairwells near sleeping floors become slightly warmer, inviting rather than demanding that you take steps. The interplay of signals and behavior adds up, and the math produces something delicate enough to hold in your palm. In a world of abundance, there is less because there is less need for more. You might think of the carbon savings, the kilowatt hours not used, the tons of emissions avoided, and they are real and important. But the deeper gift is the experience of living in a place that seems to keep you company. It is not exciting, it is reassuring. The excitement of an emergency has been replaced by the comfort of a routine that loves you. When you ride the elevator, its slow glide becomes part of your inner metronome. When you sit in a lobby, the light on the wall descends like a silk scarf in the air. When you cross a plaza, the wind moves as if it had been taught manners. The gentle rhythm continues. Imagine yourself returning home after a long day. You press your destination on the kiosk, and it greets you with a tiny nod of light. The building gives you a small moment to settle before the car arrives. The seat inside is inviting, and you rest for a breath. Perhaps someone steps in alongside you with a small dog that sighs happily. The doors close, and there is no urgency in the motion. There is only motion. You arrive at your floor at the natural pace of a thought settling into memory. You step out and walk down the hall. Your door, when it opens, passes into its latch with gentle friction. The air inside is honest, with a faint scent of clean wood. You put on a kettle and let it warm slowly, because the building planned electric loads to avoid spikes. The hot water flows into a ceramic mug that you have loved for years, and you hold it in both hands. The window shows the city layered in lights that grow softer as the night deepens. Somewhere very far away, a siren might exist in another sort of city, but not here tonight. Here, the wind moves along the surfaces with grace. Here, the blinds move down at a speed guided by the building's central heart. Here, the bed is a place where the day ends and the afternoon of tomorrow begins. The elevators continue to serve in the night, responding calmly to the few who wander from place to place. A nurse returns home and is carried up to rest. A baker rises early and descends to start a day of warm bread. A security guard finishes a shift without worry, knowing that systems are behaving, that backup power sleeps contently, that circuits have been checked, that bearings have been stroked with care. The building has its own bedtime story, a story of numbers that curves gently, a story of dashboards that never spike, a story of rooms that never bite. The gentle rhythm continues, and in the morning, the city will wake again, not with an alarm, but with a stretch. It will welcome light from the east and share it through 1,000 surfaces. It will take a breath when windows open in patient coordination. It will gather cool from the night air and save it for the afternoon. It will send the elevators out for their daily rounds with oil fresh and motors rested. It will open cafes that grind beans in insulated chambers and warm pastries in ovens that give back their heat. It will do all of this while using only what it needs. And it will end the day with reservoirs full enough to keep everyone comfortable through the night. You can close your eyes now and imagine the future as a place like this. Not loud, not bright, not fast, but alive, warm, and efficient because it is gentle. You can imagine streets where the sound of shoes fades quickly and the smell of rain finds a soft pillow in the air. You can imagine rooms where the air flows like a lazy river and lights dine on dusk rather than devour it. You can imagine elevators that glide at the speed of trust. You can imagine a city that survives by letting you rest. The gentle rhythm continues, carrying you through the last thoughts of the day. If you are still hearing these words, that is fine. If you are drifting, that is fine. The city in your mind will keep moving without you, with soft pulses of energy, with careful motion up and down its shafts, with the slow turn of small turbines and the patient breathing of plants. It will keep you in the center of a circle of care you do not need to manage. It will keep the lights low and the temperatures calm. It will keep the wheels turning and the doors welcoming. It will carry you, unhurried, towards sleep. When you return from this imagined place, you will find yourself safe where you are, in the quiet space you chose for rest. The room around you holds you the way the city would, with solid edges and soft interiors, with air that is enough and light that is enough, with motion that is enough. If your eyes are heavy, let them close. If your breath has slowed, keep it slow. You are welcome to linger here until sleep takes you. Thank you for spending this calming time with us. If this quiet journey helped you, a like and a gentle subscribe helps us keep releasing videos this often. And you can always start the playlist in the description to keep drifting as the night goes on. May your dreams be slow and kind, and may you enter them as an elevator enters the floor, steady and sure, without a jolt, on a soft cushion of air.